Zweig Group invites all AEC industry leaders to the 2024 AEC Small Business and Entrepreneurship Forum, the premier event for small firms in the AEC sector. Experience innovative strategies and insights on May 21st, crafted by Zweig Group's industry experts. Engage in keynotes and interactive sessions focused on recruitment, retention, and business growth. Join Zweig Group for this unique networking opportunity and take your business to new heights. Secure your spot today and be part of the AEC industry's future. Visit zweiggroup.com for more information. The Zweig Group team looks forward to welcoming you.
Welcome to the Zweig Letter Podcasts, putting architectural, engineering, planning, and environmental consulting guru Mark Zweig and his team of experts straight talk in your ear. Mark has more than 30 years of experience helping AEP and environmental firms thrive. And these podcasts deliver his invaluable management, industry, client, and HR advice directly to you, free of charge. The Zweig Letter and the Zweig Letter Podcasts let you develop professionally, wherever you are.
Hey everybody, and it's Randy Wilburn here, the host of the Zweig Letter Podcast. I am excited to be with you once again for another episode of the Zweig Letter Podcast. I do apologize. We did not have an episode last week, and we are back better and stronger than ever this week. And we are doing something a little different today. I'm going to have a conversation with my buddy here, Sanjay Jenkins, who is part of the Zweig Group team. And Sanjay is a recent graduate of the University of Arkansas, right here in good old Fayetteville, Arkansas, which is also one of the most affordable places to live in the country. And we were also on U.S. News and World Report's Best Places to Live. Mm-hmm. So not only are we affordable, but we're also a best place to live.
It's a good combo.
Yeah, big shout out to Fayetteville, Arkansas. But enough about where we live and where we breathe air. We want to talk to you today. And, we have different formats on the podcast. Sometimes we'll bring in a guest to be interviewed, whether it's an industry leader that's done some amazing things. We recently had Ozzie Nelson on. He had a great story about mergers and acquisitions. He talked a little bit about his blue ocean strategy and just about a number of the things that he's doing to be successful in this space. And one of the things that we want to do with the podcast is to really kind of hone in on how people are making a difference on a daily basis within their firms and within their organizations in the design industry. And when we say design industry, and a lot of times people wonder, well, what exactly are you talking about? Is that interior design? Well, that's one piece of it. But when you think of the design industry, we're thinking of we sometimes use the acronym AEC, Architects, Engineering, and Construction Management. And so those are in anything that is comprised of that. So, there is a large group of people and a large industry which is part of the AEC design industry. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. And those are the individuals that we're reaching out to. Not that any of the information that we talk about here on the podcast is exclusive to this industry, because certainly it could be used in other places. But I think it's important for us to recognize that, our goal is to try to speak to those individuals that are trying to improve themselves, improve their organizations, and to, at the end of the day, be more successful. I mean, that is the mission statement of Zweig Group. We exist to make you more successful. Mm-hmm. And so, period, end of story. Whatever it takes to do that, that's what we're going to do, short of killing somebody. That's not advised, nor is it something that we would do. And I'm being a little tongue-in-cheek here with my humor, but you get the point. The bottom line is that we want to help you be more successful, and we certainly hope that these podcasts play a role in that. Today I want to talk about a topic that's come up, and obviously something that's near and dear to my heart with my involvement in executive search and recruiting. But I was coming back from visiting a client in Florida yesterday, and I was reading an article in the Wall Street Journal about Unilever and their approach to hiring people, especially young people coming right out of school. And so, Sanjay, I thought it was appropriate to kind of, pull you into this conversation, since you just graduated and you have some thoughts about this. But the article, and we'll link to this article in the show notes, ostensibly talks about the approach that Unilever is taking to hire a bunch of interns for their organization. And they're using artificial intelligence, they're using software, and they're using HireVue, which does online interviews and provides some really interesting feedback to the end user in terms of information and being able to kind of track an individual, even from their facial tics and facial responses to different questions that are asked through the interview. And so it's amazing. But the long and short of it is that Unilever is using this program throughout the nation now, I believe, to screen and to utilize and identify potential individuals to operate in their internship program, and then eventually to potentially be hired by Unilever full time. And so they're doing everything in their power to decrease the amount of trips that they have to take to individual campuses, but trying to figure out other ways to reach these individuals. And so I thought it was worth talking about, because honestly, I think that's where the industry is going as a whole. Executive search, recruiting, anybody in the AEC space knows how difficult it is to find great talent. And I think that that you need to be able to use every tool at your disposal, to be able to find everyone that's available, and then how do you parse that list of available talent to determine who's going to be right for your organization. And so I think that Unilever has kind of found something here that would work for them. But Sanjay, I was curious to get your thoughts as somebody that, I graduated from school in the early 90s. Obviously things were a lot different then. I had to, and we talked about this earlier, my personality got me into a lot of doors. It opened up a lot of doors for me to get where I needed to go. And so, I don't know that I would have success through a Unilever program like what they're doing right now, because can a computer determine or understand or see your personality and rate it and say, yeah, you know what, I like this person, they have moxie, I want to sit down and talk with them and learn a little bit more about them and what makes them tick. And so I'd be curious, and I know you read the article as well, but I'd be curious to get your thoughts on this, and what was your big takeaway from this article?
I think, and this is something that we mentioned briefly, was the relationships piece. So I am here working for Zweig Group now because of a relationship that I had from my university time, and that I worked really hard to cultivate and make a really good impression, and I just worked hard, and I proved myself by nurturing those relationships.
Okay.
And with what Unilever is doing, you put you've got the AI sort of not really reading your resume, but the facial expressions on the videos that you shoot, or how you answer certain questions and things like that.
And it's not just that, though. When you think of it, they're using games.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're using a number of different ways to determine an individual's suitability. In those games, they have created tailor-made games that give specific feedback and response to whether or not you have the acumen that they're looking for, whether you have the critical thinking skills that they're looking for, and what are your strengths. Right. So I find that very interesting that they're taking that approach to identify talent, and obviously more and more people. Unilever is not the first one out of the gate to do this.
Absolutely.
But more and more people are going to do that. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they're able to leverage this technology to their advantage, and still do right by the talent that's out there, right? Because I believe from a recruiting perspective, that everybody needs a fair shake. Everybody needs a chance to apply for a position that they have an interest in.
Yeah.
And for an organization to give them an honest shot. So
this levels the playing field. This technology, the way they're utilizing it, I think it levels the playing field for a lot of people. And they speak in the article about how they used to do a lot of college recruiting and they would only go to a handful of colleges, but now the software lets them tap into 2,600 colleges, I believe is what they said in the article, which is a lot more than the 8 or 12 that they were looking at.
Yeah.
And so you get this, exponentially, greater diversity. And that's in thought, in background, and that's really important. I think that builds a better workforce.
right.
My hang up, it's not really a hang up, it's that I'm still trying to figure out where the relationship piece sort of plays into this whole ecosystem, because I think the mass market is ready for this. I think honestly the mass market needs it, and I don't. I think I'm a lot like you in that, like, my personality helped me sort of get into certain places. And
that you probably wouldn't have gotten into even with just your resume.
Correct. Yeah.
Right?
No, to be completely honest, yeah. And that it's sort of, my personality opened the door for me to be able to sit down and prove myself with my work ethic, and then the what I knows that you can't always properly communicate on a resume.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out how that piece will sort of integrate into this whole thing, because that's still really important with, not just recruiting, but just having a good workforce in general. And something they talk about at the end of this article is, they haven't, followed these early hires throughout their career. They have this experiment's been only running since last year, so it's a really short time frame, and I'm really eager to see how it progresses and what kind of results they get, because I could be wrong, and maybe everything that they're doing with the software, the facial recognition, that might be able to detect those little nuances that Unilever or whichever employer is looking for in terms of personality and fit and culture, and that might be the most effective thing going forward. But I think they're right now. I think I'm really interested in sort of like finding that balance between the old school way that's relationship built, and then using technology to really make people more effective in their work.
Yeah. So if you look, there's a quote in the article. It basically says the company has made more than 450 hires across the globe this way since the fall of 2016. Its experiment provides a glimpse of a tech-fueled future of recruiting in which humans write job descriptions and make the final decisions, but software and algorithms do the rest. And, firms like Goldman Sachs and Walmart's company Jet.com, they've been using similar digital tools as well to identify and hire talent. And so, it's a chance for firms to broaden their candidate base. It's also a chance to leverage technology to reach as many people as possible. Absolutely. And ultimately determine who's right. I think firms in the AEC space will be able to utilize some variation of this, once they can fully identify and articulate who their perfect avatar is, right?
Yeah.
I always tell firms this. I'm like, when we do any type of executive search job, we always ask for a resume or an example of the prototypical person that you'd like to hire. Everybody has that person, right? That Terminator, this person was built, that bionic man or woman that was just built for this organization, not just from a technical standpoint, but from a social standpoint, from a culture standpoint. The fit is right. Everything is there. And so I think that it's going to be interesting to see what design firms are how they are able to utilize this technology to find the next best architect, the next best job captain, the next best, civil site developer or the next best land developer in an area. So that if I'm a land development firm based in Seattle, I can go look in the Puget Sound area and run some type of algorithm that will identify people that have a certain characteristic that I'm looking for and a certain skill set and background and discipline, and then scan through all of those to see the 4 or 5 that I really like, or the 4 or 5 that I think are going to be appropriate based on the parameters that we lay out. And then at that point, me as a hiring manager will go in and interview these people and see who is going to be the right fit. So it certainly is exciting to see where technology is headed.
Yeah.
I just think that we still have to figure out ways to make sure that we implement it properly.
Right.
And more than anything else, we don't want to miss out on good people because an algorithm or some technology barred the door from somebody that, honestly, if you had spoken to them physically, you would say, I like that person, or I like this person. I mean, if we had done that here at Zweig, maybe we wouldn't have found somebody like you.
Yeah.
But you got in here a lot, like you said, through relationship. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see how that plays into it. But the technology certainly is there.
Oh yeah.
For us to understand that this thing is changing. I mean, the train is moving forward, and there are just a lot of different opportunities.
Exactly. I think it's very important that the AEC industry, and then just at large, we don't fight this technology, but we find how we can use it to make our lives easier and how we can do our work more effectively. Because you're right, the train is moving, and I hesitate to say the word foolish, but you run the risk of giving up on a lot of opportunities if you don't get on the train at an early. I mean, just the value that you can get from being early to something like this is tremendous.
Yeah, it is huge. And I think, and I am, in this space, in the design industry space, I'm just thinking about all the different ways that we can, get all of our peer firms to be able to update and go out and look for these individuals, not necessarily through their old wet methods, but through some of these new methods, and maybe save on having to visit every campus for a campus recruiting trip. And, I was just doing the math in my head about the amount of money that Unilever is going to save by not having to send out their internal recruiters to go recruit at these campuses, because basically a computer program and some ads have basically put the word out on the street about what they're looking for and who they want to hire, and then people are responding. And speaking of which, the article mentions that the couple of ways that Unilever operated to get the word out, and some of our listeners will appreciate this, is that they did some advertisements on Facebook, and then they also went to some of the career advice sites like Way Up and The Muse. And certainly those that were that clicked on the ads were directed to a career site where they could apply for entry-level jobs and internships in just a few clicks. And so you were able to basically do this right on your smartphone.
Yeah.
And that's where it's going to be.
Absolutely. It's where the attention is.
Yeah. I mean, I just, I was sitting around the other night and I'm, contemplating, carrying around this heavy MacBook Pro, which I love, and I'm an Apple fanboy. But the bottom line is it's heavy. I probably would prefer to carry an iPad around, and and I can honestly get just as much done on my iPad and or my iPhone than I can, than I could on my laptop. Right. And so we need to be where the eyes are, and the eyes are on tablets, and it's specifically iPads and others, and certainly on iPhones.
Oh, easy,
and,
yeah.
I certainly don't want to. I want to apologize to anybody in advance that's an Android user. I know you're saying, "What about Android?" And I get it. I'm not necessarily. I've had Androids in the past. They work just as well. Whatever you get in where you need to. I don't want to pit this an Apple versus Android thing. Whatever tablet or device that you use, the bottom line, the screens are getting smaller. People are carrying this information in their pocket. And when the time is right, if they want to apply for a job, they don't want to wait until they get back home to do that.
Right.
They will pull it up on their phone and do that. And I've said this in the past, that firms that don't have mobile responsive websites and mobile responsive applicant tracking systems that will allow people to apply for jobs are behind the eight ball. It period, end of story.
Yeah, easy.
You know, I mean, you've got to be able to give people the ability to upload their resume or share a link for their LinkedIn profile or do whatever right there on their phone, and not set it up so that you've got an old archaic system that requires somebody to be at a physical desktop in order to achieve an objective.
Oh yeah, that's game over. If you even with just at the very basic level, having that mobile responsive website.
Yeah.
You know, that code is not complicated. You know, putting something like that together is not complicated.
Right.
But it makes, such a huge difference.
It
that
does.
You have it,
It does. It does. So I'm going to be interested to see what happens. And we are going to keep track of this. I mean, I know at Zweig Group, we're working on a number of different initiatives to try to take technology and make it simpler, especially from a talent acquisition standpoint. It's one of the biggest issues that we deal with. We have firms that come to us for M&A help. We have firms that come to us for strategic planning. And everybody says the same thing. And people that come to our events, they all say the same thing. Finding good people is difficult.
Yeah.
Can you help us out? Absolutely, we can help you out. We can absolutely do it. And so I think that, and if anybody should be leveraging technology, it should be people in the design space. Right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're talking about really, really smart engineers, smart architects, smart construction people. I mean, people that build some of the greatest things in our environment, whether they're buildings or bridges or roads, you name it. These are smart people. And so we need to have smart solutions for them.
Absolutely.
To be able to take advantage and leverage and access the talent pipeline that's out there. So, but, I'd be curious, before we finish up today, what have been some of the stories that you've heard from some of your peers? What are you, 22?
21.
21. So, yeah, you're just, gosh, I'm getting old, but that's a whole nother story. But, yeah, so you're 21, and you've experienced a lot, even in your short lifetime, and you have an expectancy, and so do a lot of your peers.
Sure.
Of quick access. What have you heard from some of your peers about ways that they've interacted with potential employers, and what were some of the positive stories that came across that you resonated with you, that you kind of registered and said, I need to remember that because that sounded like a good experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. This past year, all of my peers, we were all sort of scrambling, like, what are we going to do next? Where are we going? And what's the process? And a lot of times, what Unilever is doing, and then what some other companies who still haven't integrated that technology but are still very progressive. My peers who had those experiences with those companies that were really responsive, that were quick to. In the application process, it was really easy to put together. They had a lot of these, had the videos, that they had to do, and that.
What did they think about that?
They enjoyed it, actually.
Really,
the people that I talked to, everyone said it was weird, it was different, but I came out with it I enjoyed it. I actually thought it was fun by the end of it. And it was a lot easier than the sort of the back and forth. I think millennials don't like wasting time.
No, not at all.
We really don't.
Which is one of the reasons why sometimes, millennials would prefer an email or a text as opposed to a physical interaction.
Yeah.
So that leads me to believe that in some instances, taking the approach that Unilever is taking to have there not be a physical interaction just yet, but to kind of get things going, that this process is actually going to work over time.
I think it is. I think, and that's, earlier I talked about how like the mass market, I think this, when I say the mass market, I mean, I really mean the majority of my peers, most of my friends, this is like what they need more than anything else. And this is what they've sort of been asking for. And I do better with that one-to-one, with that relationship up front. But so I'm different in that way, and so that's where my sort of hesitation comes in into play here. But without a doubt, I think like what Unilever is doing would be so helpful to 95 to 98% of my peers personally, and then I'm sure just out in general, people my age who are at this decision point in their life.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really interesting, because I look at my kids and I look at the way they interact with things and how device-centric they are. And, of course, we monitor that. But I can only imagine what it's going to be like with my 12-year-old in the next 6 years and how he's going to interact. And his expectation is going to be totally different than mine. And my expectation is totally different than yours. And so, I mean, it's a constantly evolving process. And I think firms that are going to be successful hiring great talent need to be ahead of the curve.
Absolutely.
They really do. You can do some old school methods to kind of keep your name out there. And, actually, we're going to talk about that in next week's episode. We're going to talk a little bit about marketing and specifically social media, since that's your area of expertise, because I get to have you on the show twice back to back. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's important to understand what needs to be done to get the word out.
Yeah.
And so I thought this article was really interesting, and we will certainly link to it in the show notes so people have a better feel for what we're talking about here. I've tweeted about it at Randy Wilburn, and I've even talked about it on my Anchor channel. So, it's just something new that's happening, and we need to be aware of the changing dynamic in the talent marketplace and how people are responding to things.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think in general, we just need to be aware. And it's really cool that you brought up Anchor, which I guess it's a newer platform. It's sort of like a radio.
You just started using it, right?
I just started because of you. Yeah, I've been using it every day. As soon as I get off of work, it's like I get to my apartment, I make sure I put up my daily 2 little shows that I've got going on there.
Right. Put out your 2 cents. So,
right.
And the thing about it is that people are actually listening. And I know that we've kind of talked about doing something here at Zweig with Anchor, with some kind of daily news for the design industry. And so, there may be some announcements about that coming up soon. I have a feeling that once we can figure out the best way to do it, we will be encouraging you to download Anchor on your smartphone. And if you do have a smartphone, which I'm assuming you do if you're listening to this, just go look up Anchor in the App Store and download it. Check it out. It's free. And just play with it. See what you think. I'd be curious to know. We're probably going to have to do a show on the different apps that individuals can use in the design space that can kind of help them out, both on a practical business related level, but even on a personal level, those apps that are kind of cool that make your life a little easier. Because if I can refer you to something that will buy you 30 minutes a day so that you have more time to devote to a client, or more time to devote to an upcoming project or something that you're working on for the future of your organization, then that's 30 minutes. I mean, that's the one commodity that we just can't get back is time.
Absolutely.
You can make all the money in the world, but time is one commodity. It's a precious one. So we'll spend some time doing that, and Sanjay and I will put our heads together and come up with some cool ideas to share with you, with the listening audience.
Yeah, I actually have. So we just started a sort of modern marketing for the AEC industry series out on our blog, and that will be accompanied by a sort of like an online course that I'll be hosting.
Okay.
And I will be going into those different apps that we have available to us that help people in the AEC industry do their business work better, and then pretty much exactly what you discussed.
There you go. Great minds.
So that
Great minds are always thinking about good
things. It's in the pipeline.
Well, that's good. There's a lot of stuff in the pipeline here at Zweig Group. So we certainly appreciate you listening to the Zweig Letter podcast. We certainly would ask you to share it with as many people as possible, and pass it around, share it, give. And also would love a review and to let us know what you think. And you can always send us emails. So our information in any ways to contact us is available in our show notes. But folks, I definitely want to encourage you today to get a free subscription of Civil plus Structural Engineer magazine. And to sweeten the pot, we are going to throw in a couple of issues of the Zweig letter too. If you just take the time to visit freetzl.zweiggroup.com and leave us your email address, we'll take care of the rest. Everything will be delivered to you electronically. You will not have to touch a piece of paper. Because if you're like me, I don't like touching paper, and I get rid of it as quickly as possible. As a reminder, all Zweig Group media programs like this one are available in both podcast and in a lot of instances, video format, free for download on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and YouTube, just to name a few places. A link to all of this information, including contact information for myself and Sanjay, will be in our show notes. And we'd love it if you'd go to iTunes or wherever you tune into this show and give us a rating and share this link with a friend. I'm Randy Wilburn, and I've been with Sanjay Jenkins today, and you've been listening to Zweig Group Media, part of Zweig Group. Remember, we exist to make you more successful. Bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in to this Zweig Letter podcast. We hope that you can apply the Zweig team's no-holds-barred advice to your daily professional life. For a free 6-week subscription to the Zweig Letter, please visit freetzl.zweiggroup.com to gain more wisdom and inspiration, in addition to information about leadership, finance, HR, and marketing your firm. Subscribe today.